Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel the Cat, and
I'm Evan. Great to be back with you guys for another episode at Two Guys in Hockey Talk and our NHL playoff edition. Glad to be back with my co-host Pavel the Cat.
Glad to be back with Evan. How you doing?
I am fabulous. It's been another wonderful week of hockey. It's almost like some nights I just want to jump on and just quickly do a 5-minute quick video live stream or something like that we throw up there. Who knows? Maybe we'll just kind of show up randomly sometime.
That'd be awesome. I know I've enjoyed watching some of the Steve Dangle's coverage of the Montreal games with Vegas, which we will get into a little bit later. But just him, even at the beginning when he was doing Maple Leafs games, because he's a big guy, and you should check out his channel, LFR. It's pretty cool. But the one thing I wanted to compare and maybe ask our audience is, who do they prefer having a jersey of with Doughty? Is it the beautiful one that they have here, the retro, or the one behind you that's the black and gray and a little bit of white?
That's a beauty, the reverse retro you got there.
That's a very nice one. It was probably one of my top favorites this year, next to the Minnesota Wild one. But did you have a favorite in the retro this year?
I did. I like the Dallas Stars, the white one.
Ooh,
now could you imagine if they played outdoors? I'm just thinking, going home, if I'd ever played Little League or in Pee Wee or anything and had it all white, man, would your parents be mad? Even puck stains, especially for the goalie. It's bad enough with white goalie pads. Well, guys, grab your bevy. We're ready to talk hockey.
Yeah. So speaking of amazing jerseys, to announce, Edmonton is going to go with these jerseys as their home jerseys next season. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I'm actually, it's interesting. I was going to ask you the same question. Because it's only two colors. I have a little bit I don't have a problem with the jersey whatsoever. I think it's sleek. I almost wonder if they're trying to make a new identity, and that's the reason why.
That's fair. It took me a while to get into these jerseys, and a friend of the show, Jordan, who's been on, he's a big fan, so he got this one first. And when I saw it in person, I really dug what he got, so I kind of wanted to get one myself. I really think they need to go back to the 2006 logo with the oil man, like pulling the liver. Like, I think that would be something that they need to kind of retrofit with these colors, because I think it'd be a great logo, or even on the side like they had it before.
Like on the logo, right?
Yeah.
Have it on your logo. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, hey, man, let's get right into the Stanley Cup Final Four. So just a disclaimer ahead of time. So we will not mention tonight's score of the game between the Islanders and Tampa. We will just not look. It's on recording in the background. All right, guys. So here we go. I want to talk, Pavel, before we get into the specifics of this, the NHL playoffs, great, hard-hitting, powerful bone-crushing checks. We know our fans love that. Clutch goaltending. You got to love the goaltending. But if you forgot the last 20 years, you would think it's 2001 all over again, and the New Jersey Devils are the champs. Because general managers and owners are what I believe are depressing offense to unwatchable levels, and star players are clowned by obstruction and holding. Even Kerry Fraser just recently came out, former officiating head, just came out on characteristically on his Twitter, writing all about this as well. Where are you standing on all this right now, and the way officiating's going right now in these playoffs?
Oh, how much time do you have? We've discussed this before for earlier episodes. I understand the notion of a rule book for the regular season and the playoffs. I granted, they let a little bit more go. Fair enough. And we've discussed on this show in previous episodes the difference between player safety and entertainment, and where is that balance? And it seems that player safety takes more of a precedent in the regular season, and entertainment takes more of a precedent in the playoffs. And I think it's because they're trying to sell a product, and especially since with the new TV deals, they're trying to promote down south in the States more of a hockey market to become a more recognizable, marketable sport, right? And we know hockey's big, but you've got baseball, football, and all the others ahead of basketball, right? Great viewership. So I find it a balance because I think the problem is as someone like Kevin Bieksa who's played the game and a lot of players who have commented said, if the first penalty goes out and the team knows what the precedent is for the game,
right,
the teams will play to that. And no one's out there, rarely. I mean, we're no longer in the Raffi Torres age where, people are playing to intent to injure, whether it's a Sean Avery. Now Nazem Kadri, Tom Wilson, they're today's goons, but they still play a pretty sleek game. So you want to protect your stars. At the same time, you want to play a defensive game. At the same time, you want to appeal to your fans. It's a delicate balance. It's not an easy job to be a ref. Yeah. There's so much happening on the ice. You can't always catch everything, and you can't call every scrum. At the same time, if you need to, I think what really upset me was the Corey Perry hit, and I am no means going to defend Corey Perry. But when you have a stick to the face, right, and you're bleeding and there's blood on the ground and you whistle it down, you have time to review. This isn't a playoff time or a timeout. This isn't something that it's going to take forever and drag on. Yeah. All you have to do is skate back, talk to your officials, the linesmen with the refs, and say, hey, did we miss something? It's okay. Lots was going on. Maybe there was a battle with Suzuki and Alex Tuck in the back. Who knows, right? Things happen. Or Pietrangelo was battling it out with Shea Weber. You don't know what's happening, but things are always in motion. Just stop, take a look. Yeah. It's not asking you to change the game completely. And when people say, well, we want to be pure, we don't want to change the game, we don't want to have stoppage like we do in football, the game has changed. The game is always going to evolve. You have stars like Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Mark Scheifele, who are speedy, solid guys. They're not physical bodies. Yeah. Younger guys are playing the game. Johnny Gaudreau, right? You look at Cole Caulfield. Yeah. 20, 30 years ago, that guy would not play in the NHL, let alone in the playoffs, because he would be crushed. Yeah. But there is a precedent for that. The game evolves. It's okay. We have to be mindful about how calls are made because things get out of hand. And fortunately, no one got injured. But who knows, right? I mean, anything could happen. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Early retirement for Lemieux before he came back. He left because of the clutching and grabbing, the Devils style of hockey. Sorry, Devils fans. I mean, I appreciate the players. You had a phenomenal team. They played within the rules. Great job. But here's the thing. Lemieux came back because it was changing. So he came back, and when he came back, he was able to play his game again. He was tired of it. The cross checks to the back, the obstruction, the interference all the way through. It got ridiculous. And so I know you mentioned about entertainment, but to me, entertainment, what we're saying is skill is not the entertainment we're looking for. Hits are the entertainment. So this is what I want to say. Imagine a game between the Habs and the Islanders. It's a game of clogging up the neutral zone, barricading the defensive zone. Fun hockey. Not. Okay, so sure, if you're an Islanders fan or a Montreal Canadiens fan, it's a great playoff. But a team should not be able to win a game with only 20 shots on goal unless you're the 1992 Penguins who pass up a dozen chances, but you've had puck possession the whole time, so you can bury 5 perfect ones by the elite talent on the ice. That's fun. And that's what they wanted in the States. But I'm going to digress a bit here because I actually believe American viewers, and if you're from America and following us or Europe or anywhere, maybe let us know in the comments section as you listen to the show. But to me, I believe the fault is the fans, because fans are watching enough of that hockey to still consider it entertaining. I believe the goalies are what's making this exciting, and the hard hits. That's the two things. Skill, there's very little top end skill left in the Final Four. We got about 4 or 5 players that are left in that. People are more interested in hitting. They don't mind the interference and the crushes because it's so fast out there with it. And so I just think it's taken away from the overall game, man.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think it also comes down to, with the TV deals, with the gambling plan that they're going to have, and the new pucks that they're going to be introducing that they tested last year, will that affect people with their wallets in terms of how they pay for this entertainment.
True.
Because there's so much out there. And so right now things are okay. And we complain about reffing, whether regular season or this year, any other year. It's always gotten better. And certainly there's room for growth. And there's always going to be, you can always say inconsistency in any game because your team's not up, you don't have a power play, whatever. I mean, we've had this discussion before. We've had
that's right.
a ref on the show, right? I mean, it really takes up. But the moment big money is involved and a hit like, the one on Corey Perry, which somebody made bet that they're not going to get a power play. And it ends up being Vegas winning. I mean, you could lose some money and you're getting upset because they could have gone to the power play. Montreal could have scored. Like, who knows what would happen, right? I mean, fortunately, Josh Anderson was able to score and win that game. But, it's something's going to change once the NHL is faced with financial repercussions. And right now with COVID pandemic and with everything that has taken place, they're looking for any dollar they can find, scraping at the bottom of the barrel for all ideas, right? Not in a bad way, because with the cap salary stationed at where it's at, with escrow going up for players and players not wanting to do that, with the Olympics potentially coming up, with the new season coming up. Now, the one thing I will admire is that a lot of teams in the States have opened up their stands, but Canadian markets have really faltered. So the owners want people back, right? And fortunately, I'm hoping that in Canada, we get to go see games in the fall this year.
Yeah.
Will that be a reality? Who knows? I mean, only, 3,500 are visible at the Bell Media Center, right? So
okay. Let's kind of sticking with the 4 teams still in the playoffs. Let's talk about the Habs and the Vegas Golden Knights. And besides totally entertaining from many different aspects, whether it's when I say entertainment, I mean the drama. There is so much drama, even off the ice when you're dealing with COVID, even where you got a coach, you got a general manager. Like, I mean, it's crazy. So what I'd like to talk about, because I had a little, for anyone that follows me on Twitter at Revenev, I had a little debate going on about the goaltender situation. So they put Leonard in. So let's go back a couple games.
Yes.
So they put Leonard in that game. Vegas only got 20 shots, but they won that game. 20 shots, they won that game. Leonard won that game for them.
Yeah.
Now, it was common. Would you have gone back to Fleury? Remember, back then, not now with hindsight. Would you have gone back to Fleury, or would you rode the hot goaltender?
I go with the hot goaltender, and I would have stuck with Leonard.
Okay. That was exactly my thing. And I believe it's because we see hockey the same, which maybe doesn't make all the time for good podcasts, but that's okay. So this is the argument. Fleury has had an incredible season. He's earned it. He's this, he's that. And this is what I say. Hogwash, who cares what they've done? This is the playoff. It's win or go home. And to put Fleury back in, because I guess this was my thing. It wasn't just a win. The win was because Leonard played so well. Fleury is not to blame on this last game, but here now they are in a bad place because Vegas has to come back and get 2 wins. Leonard is going to obviously be back in net. I would think Leonard's going to be taking that net again, and you got to ride him now, because if you get a win with Leonard, put Fleury back in, what kind of message is that going to be able to send? And I think that one thing that Vegas has never been really good with is managing these 2 goalies and how they're dealing with stuff. But yeah, everyone's like, no, you put Fleury in, and it's like, guys, no, you don't. You ride the goalie that's hot when not they win, but hot. They're actually.
So I agree with some points. However, I would counter with a few little things. First off, Fleury had the better numbers. He is a Vezina candidate.
Yep.
He is older,
but
he had the better. I mean, he's been performing way better. Second,
Correct.
I'm not going to count, like last week we talked about, we were discussing game 1 and what could happen after the fact that, Montreal got owned by Vegas and everyone said, oh, Vegas is going to sweep. This is an easy rush. And now we're at a point where they're a game away from the Stanley Cup Finals since 1993, which is incredible. So that's good. That being said, Leonard is your goalie of your future. You paid him last summer 5x5, and you wanted to get rid of Fleury. What would this Vegas team be without Fleury right now? They would not be where they're at in the standings. You know, you yourself talked about, Evan, I recall, that they should trade, and they're probably going to move Fleury by the end of the thing. But nobody wanted to take that money because it was a full cap hit, and they weren't going to retain any salary.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have a goalie of the future, but you have a goalie who's really competitive now, and most likely, unless something happens, can retire. Can retire a Golden Knight. However, my prediction is he's going to retire a Penguin. That's just my speculation. Woo! In the end, even if he gets one game in. So you're battling two different things. Last year, if you recall, there was a big debate about Fleury not starting and his agent posting that photo of a Golden Knight sword going through. If you guys recall, you can look it up on Twitter.
I remember that last year.
And saying DeBoer's name on the sword, right? So that kind of betrayal, which apparently came out that, Fleury didn't know anything about it. Anyways, long story short, Leonard's your goalie of the future. He knows what's up. He is a solid goaltender. He didn't find the money in Chicago, and before that in Buffalo, and he played in a few other places. So he clearly wanted a fresh start, and he got it, and he's proved himself. He's a solid goaltender.
Yeah.
You go with him because he's a solid guy. Also, in the regular season, if you look it up, the team has outscored their opponents this season when Leonard was in net. Even though they lost, they would still outscore their opponents sometimes. Whether they win or not, they score more in games when Leonard was present than when Fleury.
Yeah.
So you look at those statistics and you think, okay, my team's not scoring. You don't want to get Marchessault going. You want to get Mark Stone going. How do you do that? You want to get Riley Smith going.
You get the goalie in that's going to enable
You get the goalie in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the problem with Vegas Knights is I'm not counting them out. Everyone thought they're going to be destroyed by Colorado, and they came back from a 3-1 series and won. Yeah. So I'm not counting them out. It's a great series. I hope it goes till 7 because more hockey for us, more to talk about.
True.
I still think you should go with Leonard as your starter if you win a game because you're not trying to break that momentum. That being said, moving forward, I would honestly play Leonard the next game because for whatever reason, Fleury is shaky against the Montreal Canadiens. Now it's a battle, as you talked about the drama off the ice. It's a battle of the French goalie versus the Canadian goalie, Carey Price, right? Who do you pick? So
if you're French, you're loving it. So okay, let's go. I want to kind of top off of that series specifically with the Habs in Vegas. Let's talk about how this series has been crazy. It really has. I got to admit, I'm loving the drama of all the different things going on. I just wish there was like superstar players on the ice, like with insane skills, like the Austin Matthews, the Alexander Ovechkins, the McKinnons. You know what I mean? These type of guys. But I want to go back and at the beginning, a while back, some of our shows. Do you remember we talked about the strength of the North Division? So most of us were all over the North. At least should be given consideration, right? Then when we saw the Oilers fall so badly in a sweep, and then we saw Toronto go down to the Habs in 7 and just kind of fall apart, and then we saw Winnipeg look like nothing to the Habs. We're like, oh, what a week. Maybe not out loud, but we're saying it. And a lot of people on Twitter and on social media, on the Facebook groups and everything, they're all over this. And interesting enough, I want to bring out, some people now are going on and saying, wow, look, if the Habs win this, this is the craziness of fans. They say, if the Habs win this thing, it proves the North is the best. Well, not necessarily. If Vegas wins, it proves they're the best. Well, not necessarily. I want to come back. They're obviously fairly even matched because of the series, you can see. But I want to come back and remind people that 3 of the worst, the teams from the West, 3 of their bottom teams that Vegas and Avalanche played were the bottom 10 in the league, worse than all of the rest of the North Division. The North Division wasn't as weak, and it just because the Canadians didn't barely make it in only because of the late fall with some of the teams like the Canucks with the things that happened and the Flames. But I want to remind people that Gallagher was out, that they had injuries left and right, and Price was struggling. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. I think that it wasn't a proper evaluation. So I'm kind of confused, and I can't wait till next year when things go back to normal, because I want to see how some of those North teams actually will compete again post COVID.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that, I mean, we didn't even allude to that you should, is that they even fired their coach. I mean, they got rid of him, right? Like Claude Julien was gone. So
yes,
that was a whole thing, right? And they brought in Dominic Ducharme, and people were wondering, is this a good fit? Will this work? I mean, he's built that team. Yes, a good, healthy team always helps. Yes, So the one thing I will disagree with you is I think they do have stars. They're not as flashy. I honestly think Nick Suzuki is getting the attention that he deserves because he is a young and upcoming Bergeron light player. He plays that center way so well. He knows how to move around the ice and maneuver, and he's got hands. He's not the flashiest. The one player that has really surprised me and really, really stood out is Paul Byron. This guy just came out of nowhere, and he was on waivers this year, and yet look at what he's doing. Let alone Corey Perry was on waivers, which would have been a great pickup for any team. But like last year in Dallas, he went all the way to the Cup final. He knows how to perform, because there are players that play in the regular season, and then there's players that get you to the Stanley Cup final, right? Yeah. They're the clutch that really pushes you. They know how to grind. They may not get all the points. Yeah. Not to mention, let's talk about Philip Deneau, and again, how underrated he is. Now, the other funny thing about this series that I just quickly want to mention is that if you look at the last three series that Montreal has faced, the teams that they have opposed have lost a number one or number two center. In the first one, unfortunate accident to Jonathan Tavares, he was out. The second series, Mark Scheifele suspended for his unnecessary hit. True. In this series, although he played in the last, I think, 2 games, I don't know if he played in the Chandler Stevenson was out. So you're moving Alex Tuck up on the third line, and Carlson's your second line center. So there is a bit of luck, because if these teams are healthy, does Montreal make a push against Toronto when Tavares is on the line? Does Montreal sweep Winnipeg if Scheifele's going through the full games? Who knows, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Things like that. So you have to understand, center position is very important. And it's funny because the numbers for face-off wins is in favor of Vegas, because they have solid center.
Yeah, great center.
But for whatever reason, Winnipeg or Montreal just knows how to convert back, to take the puck away, right? And it's so we'll get into the other series, but you have to be mindful of giveaways.
But that's because they're clogging the neutral zone, right? So on those face-offs, where it hurts the Habs is on their offensive zone face-offs, because that's their chance to score, but they're not focused on scoring. So I going back, and I know that you see things different with stars. When I say stars, I'm talking superstars, not second level. Everybody right now, when it comes to forwards, are second level in this series. There is not, the only person I put up there as right on that edge is Mark Stone. So Mark Stone is really Suzuki this year is his best year, is around 0.8 or so, but he's basically a 0.65 player. He's new, he's young, get it. But they're exciting. Cole Caulfield could be something great. But again, these are all young guys. These are all guys coming along. They're not the people that literally can dangle and mangle and
I don't know, that Cole Caulfield guy is pretty good.
He's good, but he's still a rookie. And I've seen this year after year where someone can look good coming in. But, he's entertaining right now. But that doesn't...
Was that not the same thing about Cale Makar when he came into the playoffs and had an unreal playoff seasons 2 years ago? And now look at him; he's one of the best defensemen and a Norris type winner. I see Caulfield becoming a potential Rocket Richard winner in the future. I honestly see him becoming a star. I'm sorry, you can't tell me that guy can't.
And that's absolutely fair. But I can also sit there and list probably 15 players who have looked good in the playoffs, and where are they next year? right? It just because they came, Makar is an exceptional player, but everyone knew Makar. They just didn't think he would be that quick. There was a lot of talk about him coming in. So, yeah, granted. But for me, people still want to see the Ovechkins. They want to see the Scheifeleys, the McDavids, the McKinnons. They want to see the Tavareses, the Austin Matthews. Those guys are what really sells the game. And I think that they're pushing those kinds of players out. And I have a theory. I think when this all gets said and done, we're going to find that it's going to be kind of skewed because a lot of people want hockey because they're bored. But when next year comes around, if this doesn't change, you're going to see if it's got the same thing and the superstars, the franchise players of the game, the skill, are not in these finals, you're going to see lower numbers regardless of contracts in the States and stuff like that.
So speaking of contracts, because I want to bring this up. So it's been discussed on this show and many other places is, they've talked about how like a lot of these players who make 10 million and over aren't getting it done in the playoffs. And can you build a team with a player or players that are making 10 million plus above,
Yeah.
What about goaltenders now? Is Carey Price the exception to the rule, or will GMs look at this in the offseason and say, you know what, maybe we got to pay $4 to $6 million for a solid goaltender and invest in someone who can play unreal? I mean, I get Carey Price is unreal, but like Fleury's at a high number. Vasilevsky's going to re-sign and he's going to be at a high number.
Yeah.
I think Varlamov and the guys out in Islanders, they are the only ones that Lou will squeeze every penny out of, and good for him. I mean, that's why he's GM of the year twice in a row.
I think you said it earlier, right? It's just the NHL is all about copying what they see. And last year we saw Markstrom, right? He didn't sign in Edmonton to get more money in Calgary and more term, and so.
And the no move. He wanted the no movement clause. That was his big thing because he wanted to stay in Vancouver, but they wouldn't grant him that because then they'd have to expose Demko to the expansion.
But the problem there, even with Markstrom, though, right? He took another $1 million more almost to be able to go south to Calgary instead of up into Edmonton, which it was all booked and planned. I still see Holland and Edmonton going for something bigger. And they were already kicking. By the way, Edmonton fans, don't write off the potential of a Koskinen buyout and a potential way to pick up Marc-Andre Fleury for his last year with Mike Smith backing him up. They are going to make a push this year, and they're going to get creative. And what better way than finding a place? But I mean, it's going to take Fleury being able to do it. I know you'd love to see him back in Pittsburgh. I don't know if that can happen, but it's a potential because I know Holland was looking at it. It's Marc-Andre Fleury if he thinks that they have a chance. That's the bottom. I see him wanting one more run at this. So, hey, can I mention something? The Penguins totally caught me off guard. I saw it from two Pittsburgh sources. The Penguins potentially could be making a push for a bigger defenseman in Rasmus Ristolainen.
Oh, interesting. Well, he does need a fresh start. He's struggled out there for a while in Buffalo, and his name has been in the rumor mill forever, I think. Like he's nonstop, but I think he needs a fresh start.
Right, but if you're trading, right? Buffalo's trading, so they're going to clean house. So, which brings us, let's get over to Eichel for a minute. So before I'm going to get your take on this now. Let's call it the Eichel sweepstakes here. I want to talk about the Golden Knights. They have loads of talent, and they have picks, and they have prospects. They got Peyton Krebs, Cody Glass. They could throw in a Shea Theodore, Alex Tuck. I mean, there's a ton of things that they could do, and they go after stars. I mean, I can't even imagine Jack Eichel, a healthy Jack Eichel, being picked up. Everyone would be so mad if him ending up in Vegas, just like they picked up Pietrangelo and stuff like that. But
it'd be very tough. I'm not saying it's impossible. They're very tough. I think the core that they have right there is now. I think the question is Vegas has to look internally and see what else is possible, because I think if anything that's going to happen if they lose this series to Montreal, whether in game 6 or 7, or even if they go to the final and lose, there's going to be big questions for Vegas, because their plan was 5 years to win the cup, maybe 6. I understand. I think it's going to be a question about Marchessault and Riley Smith, and are they on the trading block like they were for last year? Because Carlson's staying, he's at a good number, and he's a good second line center. Other people, who I would consider with Calgary, if something is going to work with Sean Monahan, if you can get him there, because you have Alex Tuck, you have Carlson, and you have Stevenson. But if you can get maybe, Sean Monahan out there or a Goudreau or something like that.
You're talking Vegas finding a way to pick up.
Right. But sorry, so not to get off topic. So with Jack Eichel, I think the safe bet is Columbus. They have the cap space. They have a bunch of picks this year, which clearly Buffalo covets. So they really want these. Kevin Adams is trying to clean house, kind of do a similar thing what Ottawa did with Pierre Dorian. The unlikely one that I was debating between the two, and it was kind of mentioned in a few discussions, either Washington or Montreal. Now, hear me out. Washington, they're not happy with Kuznetsov. There's been talks of trading him out. And when you have the core of Ovechkin, TJ Oshie, who may or may not go to Seattle, I don't know. You have John Carlson,
Yeah.
And you have Nicholas Backstrom as a center. You have a chance to win. And if you can get a second center behind that group, why not go for it? You're not rebuilding with Alex Ovechkin still able to get one more in, right? I mean, he's ready to win one more. As for Montreal, what has been their biggest need forever? It's center down the depth.
Yeah.
Now they have, would you give up a Nick Suzuki? I don't know, right? Would it be a Philip Deneau, or does he walk this summer? But they have a bunch of picks this year. Do you think they would go for it, especially if they have a miracle run and they're like, we're just right there and we lost to Vegas, or whether it's Tampa or Islanders?
Yeah.
And do we need a center for next year to just make that extra push? And Marc Bergevin is going to get a lot of openness to do that. And he's bold and he can take a big charge.
Yeah,
so those are my two teams that I would say.
Interesting. I was going to say that's interesting about Kuznetsov. I just did a quick check here, looking into our season, because he's still got another 4 seasons at 7.8, but he comes in at a 0.8% a game player. So he's kind of around the production of Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Interesting.
But they're not happy with him, and he's broken COVID protocol. There's been some internal discussions with him. He's come late to a practice or two. So clearly the organization isn't very happy with him. And maybe it's just time for a change. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
And there was that incident last season, off season, I think it was. So, whether you want to look into that or not, but it's also publicity.
So quickly, because we're just touching in on Washington, Ovechkin, let's just say he resigns in Washington, which all signs would say, where else would he sign? But let's just say he does. What's he going to command?
I think it's between 10 and 12.
You think he would go as low as 10 or 11?
Yeah, he would. Only because he'll do a bridge deal, probably, because he understands the flat cap and he likes Washington, and that's the face of the franchise, as we've discussed before. I can't imagine anyone else there. Now, secretly, I think it would be hilarious, and don't at me, everyone, if he came to Edmonton, as I've said before, wore an Oilers jersey, played on the wing with McDavid, and broke Gretzky's record, because that would just be unreal. But, that will never happen.
Oh, man. That's too funny. Hey, let's move over to the West Coast here. Let's talk about the Canucks. So news came out about the Sedins. So the Sedins stepping into – I want to give my take on this. So the Sedins – interesting, because it's not a player, it's both of them. Everything they do, it's like they have to hold hands. That's why they were called the Sedin sisters, right? If you're outside of Vancouver, I know if you're a Vancouver fan, you're like, don't call them Sedin sisters, you're so sexist. But no, honestly, they were incredible players. Please don't. We like to tease them. It's hockey talk. But special advisors to the general manager. Now, here we go. Is there anything that these guys cannot do? I think they're smart. I think this is just no one said nothing, but everything. And I like reading. I like following and watching people and human behavior. And I think they could be aiming for the first co-general manager position in the history of hockey, and Vancouver just may do it with how they love the Sedins. Why not train under Benning, learn all this? They don't have to learn how he does it. They need to learn the game. And could we be looking in 2 to 3 years at the Sedins becoming the next general managers of the Vancouver Canucks?
Only maybe. I would only say no because of the salary situation, and with Vancouver last year saying we're cutting certain places and we have to limit our finances. So I could see more of a similar role with what we discussed earlier with Pittsburgh and with Brian Burke and Ron Hicks, though, where there's an advisor and a GM or a president of hockey operations and GM. I think kind of different titles.
But one tells the other one what to do, though.
That's fine.
And you got brothers. Yeah, but the brothers have always worked together.
Yeah, and they still can. It's just different titles for different roles because they have different things. That being said, maybe their talents are good elsewhere. I mean, maybe they're better, at amateur scouting. I mean, maybe they're better at, connecting with a group. I mean, look at what Luongo has done in with goaltending out in Florida, right? Like he's really helped revitalize that project. And Bobrovsky still struggled a little bit, but you have Spencer Knight coming into his own and Chris Drieger being incredible this year. So,
what I would say is Vancouver is a place that tries new things, including being the captain of a franchise in the goalie Robert Luongo. So, and I could see the Sedins taking $5 million between the two of them to actually go. I just want people to think about that, as we kind of go through. We only got a couple minutes left here, guys, to kind of cover a few more things. I do want to mention that they have a great base to build on in Vancouver right now. They got some good stuff coming out of this draft, but they're 2 to 3 years. So if you're a fan of Vancouver, they're 2 to 3 years of getting out of cap hell, because you can't have a fourth line centerman making $3 million. And I hope that, as just a fan of hockey and for the West Coast, for all the fans out there, that they don't tap into free agency again and be spending too much. That's the one concern that I do have.
Yeah, you can't be spending that kind of money on Tanner Pearson or Tyler Myers for what he's going to bring, especially with Quinn Hughes coming up, and of course Pettersson being what he is and what he can bring to the franchise. Right now, I wonder, Evan, do you think because of his injury this year, do you think that devalued a bit of what Pettersson can get, even if he does a bridge deal, which is what it's looking like?
I don't think so. I think the whole COVID thing on top of injury, it just that swept through that team. I think it's almost like you get a free year. I really think that, because even look at players. People didn't realize that was something also. Even I hate to bring up that name again that everyone thinks I love, Hall. He dealt with COVID. It was a COVID year for him. A lot of players who had come back from COVID, they struggled. You can have a couple good games, but the consistency, it's just, I feel bad for these guys that have had to truck through this. So
on top of everything else, not seeing their families, the travel, the empty barns, things like that. So.
Everyone says, oh, they're paid millions, they can be motivated. It's just I'm sorry, more than money. We all know. You can take a profession. I won't pick on one specifically and mention it, but a profession, maybe they make really good dollars. But do you think that they're better because of that? No, they're paid because of their skill set, not because of their motivation. It's their skill set or the danger that they go into that gets them the money they get paid. A player is balance. Yeah, exactly. And the skill set of our players and their entertainment values. So a couple things just wanted to mention. Blackhawks. We talked about Dougie Hamilton off the air before we started. So I hadn't heard this. I just got this about 30 minutes before we came on today. But interesting enough, I never thought about this, but it was put out there that Dougie Hamilton could like the potential of a landing spot with the Chicago Blackhawks. Seabrook and Andrew Shaw have long-term injury, and they have $11 million to work with.
Shaw's retired. He retired.
So how's that affecting their cap then?
Well, he's done after this year, so they'll have that space.
Okay, so
Seabrook is still one more year.
Yeah, are they still? But he, because of his injury, there'll be something to it. So what they're saying is $11 million today. They're saying that officially today. They'll have $11 million that they can use of cap space, though. So if they can do that, now that's saying that maybe Hamilton doesn't want to go to a team, and this is implying that he's not going back to the Hurricanes. Of course,
No.
Some people believe he is, but if he doesn't want to be on an expansion team, like the Kraken, I could see Hamilton liking a spot, in an original 16 and still getting some work in with the Blackhawks, and that could be a good potential fit.
I've heard the Chicago Blackhawks in on both Jones and on Eichel.
Yeah, both would be good,
and I think both would be good. And I mean, all you have to do with Chicago is reachable. You still have Patrick Kane. You have Alex DeBrincat. Their goaltender, who was it this year that really broke out? The name escapes me. You'd have to look it up, Evan. But he had a good, solid year, right? He came out and had solid number, especially since Crawford had to walk, and then of course step away.
We're talking about the goalie, or who are we talking about?
Yeah, the goalie in Chicago.
Yeah, sure. I was thinking you were talking about Dominic, their forward, but yeah.
No.
Chicago, their play-by-play, Pat Foley. He's been there for 38 seasons. This will be his last season. He is historic there. I mean,
legend.
And so 39 years he'll have worked with the Chicago Blackhawks. So sorry to see, I only heard a few games here and there on their old radio. The guy was fabulous. So
what a way to go out in the 2010s where they won 3 Stanley Cups.
Good for him. Could you imagine the excitement of calling that? Okay, last 2 things I want to mention. We got 2 minutes here to wrap up. OEL back in the trade market. The reports are out about the Oliver Ekman-Larsson. For those who are not sure what I'm talking about, his salary is so high, they must be looking at taking on cap and paying by giving up prospects, taking on cap, prospects,
which they don't have
players.
A lot of.
So maybe more actual players that are more worth something. But we know that they don't have a lot of money on that team, and they need to get rid of real money. And they've always been like this. So maybe could Boston potentially be in on something? They were interested through the run last year.
Well, it wasn't that they were interested. Is that when the organization approached OEL, he gave him only 2 teams that he would be willing to move to, which was Vancouver and Boston. And of course, that makes it very difficult to work, because how do you make that work?
But Boston had the discussions, according to a lot of the insiders.
Both teams did. Even Benning looked at potentially doing something.
Why would you look at it if you weren't interested? You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. So. He had a down year, but he can still be a solid, effective guy.
A second line guy. So last crazy rumor. This is totally a rumor that's out there. Flames. Tkachuk wants out and wants to go. Flame fans are going to hate this. That he wants to go to St. Louis, and there's been talk. So some folks around Calgary organization, though, they've described this. Oh, by the way, Tkachuk for Tarasenko has been rumored. As a wild speculation, not from Hockey Buzz. Sorry, by the way, Eklund, not trying to tear your site down. Not that you watch us anyway. But anyway, so the folks around the Calgary organization have taken this rumor and they've described it in 2 words. The first being bull and the second one sounding a lot like shirt. Any
so what you're saying is this has legs.
Oh man. Well,
so before we finish, we didn't really talk about this. Tampa Bay and Islanders, do they finish tonight, or do we see a game 7?
I quit guessing. I have no clue, and I'm gonna withdraw.
All right, then Evan, tell me right now, if this is game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, point or Price, who's your Conn Smythe winner?
Oh, I'm going to go with Price. The goalie usually gets it if he carries him on his legs. You're going.
But Braden points on a scoring streak that hasn't been seen in a long time.
Yeah. No, you're right. So, but I still think the goalie gets it. So, well, guys, thanks for following, liking, subscribing, being with us. We appreciate everything. Throw ideas back to us. We got a couple more weeks of the playoffs before we get into some new things. We'll be bringing some guests back again, but we're just going to get through these playoffs just because Pavel and I, frankly, we got lots to talk about, and our guests take away our time.
Yeah, 100%. We're looking forward to it. So thank you guys for the likes, the shares. Continue to subscribe and join and get that video out there. We love your thoughts, comments, and we appreciate everything you can do. Evan, take us out.
And in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe, guys.
Cheers.